I feel like that last note should be fifths.
I agree.
Because-
that's nice. I like it. Yeah, keep it.
Because, yeah, otherwise I felt like when we edited it yesterday, it just holds on and it feels awkward. Oh,
Okay.
okay. Oh, good.
It's gonna be easiest for you.
Oh,
Just
sorry.
that.
That's probably what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna mark that as natural.
I guess Joe, just make sure you give me enough room to set my base on this side, so.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's plenty.
Where was that spot? Sure. There it is. Just gonna mark every one of them.
And then did you tell her that it was considered?
Yes. Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah. All right.
So we start with two French.
Start with two French. Watchau was this. Antique, and then Pearl was
Good morning and welcome, those in person and those online, to First Unitarian Universalist Church of Rochester. For over 150 years, we have gathered here on the ancestral lands of the Dakota people, striving to be a church of open minds and loving hearts, celebrating many sources of wisdom and many spiritual paths. Your faith, your doubts, your questions, your hopes for our world, and your story are welcome here. Together we nurture spirituality and practice justice. If you miss Wednesday evening's forum online about the potential of leasing some of our classroom space to Rasa School starting next fall, you can view the recording of that forum online or by contacting the office and link to hear about some of the conversation, what's possible, and if you have questions or comments as well. So that link is online, or you can contact the office. And if you tried to view Marie Miller's memorial service yesterday on the live stream and had trouble, we apologize for that. But please know that it was recorded and that has now been uploaded to our YouTube page, so you can view the service there now if you didn't get a chance to see it yesterday to join in. This holiday season, we're offering a variety of ways to gather and to give. We have a cookie exchange, a solstice service with Caroline and Coco, multiple services on Christmas Eve, including one with extra safety precautions that requires registration. And then next week, you can return your guests at your table boxes and giving tree gifts in a festive service ending with jingle bells. So you can bring something to ring if you want, make it very fun and festive. So you can see all of this on the website or in the special e-news that we send out to celebrate the holidays here at First UU Church. Each week this month, we're collecting additional financial support for the Giving Tree organizations. Today is Riverside Elementary. You can give at the boxes at the side of the sanctuary, or you can give online at uurochmn.org/give. And thank you and welcome to our musicians today, Jane Foote for singing, and our bass trio. Welcome. We're so glad for you sharing your gifts of music this morning. After service, join us outside on the festive, fun patio with heaters and warm coffee and tea and donuts. It's a little cold, but you're hearty people, and it's good. Or you can join online at Zoom at 10:15 for online coffee hour. We hope you can gather with us. Finally, in the words of our minister in the 1870s, the Reverend Eliza Tupper Wilkes, may our faith in humanity and our message of hope and good cheer light our way. It's good to be together.
Out of the darkness, light. Out of the light, warmth. Out of the warmth, joy. Out of the joy, togetherness. May this flame hold us for the time we are here with one another.
We'll sing together in the bleak midwinter. I invite you to rise in body or spirit.
Frosty wind made moan. Today's story reminds us what it's like to be different, but to also lift up that specialness that's in each of us. I Talk Like a River by Jordan Scott, illustrated by Sydney Smith. I wake up with the sound of words each morning all around me. P for the pine trees outside my bedroom window, C for the crow in its branches, M for the moon fading in the morning sky. I wake up each morning with the sounds of words all around me, but I can't say them all. The P in pine tree grows roots inside my mouth and tangles my tongue. The C is a crow that sticks in the back of my throat. And the M in moon dusts my lips with the magic that makes me only mumble. I wake up in the morning with these word sounds stuck in my mouth. I stay quiet as a stone. I eat my oatmeal without a peep, and I get ready for the day without a word. At school, I hide in the back of class, and I hope I don't have to talk. When my teacher asks me a question, everybody turns and looks at me. They don't see a pine tree sticking out from my lips instead of a tongue. They don't hear a crow caw from inside my throat. And they don't hide their eyes from the moonlight that shines from my open mouth. All they hear is how I don't talk like them. All they see is how strange my face looks and that I can't hide how scared I am. My mouth isn't working. It's full with words of the morning. Mornings are always hard, but this one's especially tough. I'm stuck more than ever. My teacher says we all have to talk about our favorite place in the world. Today is my turn. But my mouth just isn't working, and I want to go home. My dad picks me up from school. It's just a bad speech day, he says. Let's go somewhere quiet. My dad takes me to the river. We walk along the shore looking for colorful rocks and water bugs. It feels good to be quiet and alone with my dad. But I can't stop thinking about my bad speech day, all those eyes watching my lips twist and twirl, all those mouths giggling and laughing. I feel a storm in my belly, and my eyes fill with rain. My dad sees I am sad and pulls me close. He points to the river and says, "See how that water moves? That's how you speak." I look at the water, bubbling and whirling, churning and crashing. My dad says I talk like a river. This is what I like to remember, to help stop myself from crying. I talk like a river. Or from not wanting to even speak at all. I talk like a river. When words around me are hard to say, I think of the proud river, bubbling, churning, whirling, and crashing. And I also think of the calm river beyond the rapids, where the water is smooth and glistening. This is how my mouth moves. This is how I speak. Even the river stutters, like I do. I wake up in the morning with the sound of words all around me. I go to school and tell the class about my favorite place in the world. I talk about the river. And I talk like a river.
Growing up, I had what was, I think, a fairly typical Midwestern Christmas, filled with the thrill of gift exchanges, special foods, and extended family. We would get a fresh tree and tell stories about the different decorations. I remember spending weeks making presents and special cookies, singing familiar carols. We would drive around town and look at all the lights. On Christmas Eve, we would usually go to church, then come back and finish wrapping presents, preparing for the coming day. Christmas Day itself was filled with cinnamon rolls and pfeffernusse, filled with family and joy while opening presents. But time and traditions change. Several years ago, my parents, sister, and I started to have conversations about what we wanted Christmas to look like for us. We noted that we were all feeling stressed about finding the perfect gift for each other. So why were we doing it? None of us liked the hustle and bustle of shopping with hordes of other people anyways. So scratch the presents. Then there's the food. Now there are fewer extended family members and no children around, and we're all trying to be more careful about what we consume, so we've modified that element too. And introverts that we all are, there's a hyperstimulation that can come with this time of the year that just doesn't appeal to us. We've even questioned why we're gathering together at a time when driving's not always ideal, and In Iowa City, because of the cycle of university life, many things are closed. We're still trying to figure it out. Robert Fulghum, in his book, What on Earth Have I Done?, wrote that for him, during this time of year, some low-key joy would do, amateur joy, something unspectacular. No glitz, no glamour, no extravagance. Instead, he just wanted to be with others, struggling to feel at home in the winter's dark and awed to be a part of the mystery of it all. That, more than anything, resonated with me. So, at least for now, I'll aim for amateur joy.
invite you to take a deep breath. Feel below you the earth and its ancient turning. Above you the sky, and beyond that the stars shining with their ancient light, holding you in this space, this breath here, now. You yourself made of earth and stars. Know that in this house you are named and you are known as beloved and as sacred. I invite you into this time of meditation, this time of prayer, first by sharing silence together. Spirit of life and source of love, God of many names and beyond all naming, when the sky fills with what feels like the sky is falling, for some it feels like a soft blessing, a benediction almost of stars, for others a mess or an obscuring of their surroundings and their world, for all there is a humility that comes to life when the world is stopped and slowed down by storm. To some, it's a gift, but also a hard reminder of life's fragility. May the quiet softness that can come with winter storm also give our soul a space to slow down, perhaps to play in or to notice the crispness of air, the invitation to experience a world stilled, even if for a few moments, filled with life in all its complexity swirling in the air. This day we're holding in loving memory the life of Marie Miller, whose memorial was here yesterday. The flowers here and downstairs in the entry are from the ones downstairs sent from Hawaii from loved ones, are in her honor, and we send love to their family. We hold this day in our hearts all those who suffer in mind, in body, or spirit. I invite you to bring the names you're holding in your own hearts this day in joy or sorrow, celebration or concern, and silently or aloud now in this space to speak their names. For all the names spoken and unspoken, may we be grateful for the love and life that weaves us together. May those threads hold us in love and in strength. These words of meditation come from Patricia Fagnoli, entitled Winter Grace. If you have seen the snow under the lamppost, piled up like a white beaver hat on a picnic table, or somewhere slowly falling into the brook to be swallowed by water, then you have seen beauty and known it for its transience. And if you have gone out in the snow for only the pleasure of walking barely protected from the galaxies, the flakes settling on your parka like the dust from just-born stars, the cold waking you as if from long sleeping, then you can understand how more often than not truth is found in silence, how the natural world comes to you if you go out to meet it. Its icy ditches filled with dead weeds, its vacant birdhouses and dens full of sleeping. Because this is the slowed down season, held fast by darkness, and if no one comes to keep you company, then keep watch over your own solitude. In that stillness, you will learn with your whole body the significance of cold and the night, which is otherwise always eluding you. May it be so. Amen.
A Blue Holiday by Diana Butler Bass. Many faiths and religious traditions have sacred days or times of waiting in darkness in anticipation of enlightenment or peace. That light breaks through the night. Diwali, Bandi Day, Hanukkah, winter solstice, Advent. And these sorts of holy days are celebrated when darkness surrounds, when all seems lost. When we hurt and think we have been abandoned, when all promises seem broken. When we light candles against the night, trusting and believing that a greater light will arise, when a single flame becomes a conflagration of compassion and justice. The blue candles of Advent symbolize the color of the sky right before dawn, that time when the deepest dark is just infused with hints of light. Blue holds the promise that the sun will rise, and that even after the bleakest, coldest, longest night, the light will break forth as the new day arrives. Blue may be a color of sadness, but blue is also the color of hope. We are waiting for light. Advent recognizes a profound spiritual truth, that we need not fear the dark. Instead, wait there, under that blue cope of heaven, alert for the signs of dawn. Watch, for you cannot rush the night, but you can light some candles, sing some songs, recite poetry, say prayers. Make mine a blue Advent this year. The second reading is Solstice, when the days are fire. Short the day and soft the dark, just hold on. The to-do list won't go on without you. The promises you mean to keep will outlast this night. Rest now. Unfold the silken treasures of reflection. Still, we lean into the beats of silence. Everything has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Even days like these, even heartbreak like this, even the outpouring apocalypse from which you try, broad-shouldered, to shelter the elders and the children. In the dark, the longest nights, you can remember. Write it on your hands and arms, braid it into your hair, scrawl with Sharpie on your pants. No matter what, they cannot take your spark. And if, in slanting rain or blanching wind, you must bank an ember, where better than the dark? Come here, come home. They cannot take it, and beyond all that, your name is written, indelible, on our beating hearts.
Thank you. I remember it clearly. A fellow youth in my church group growing up, while we were on a trip to a large gathering of thousands of youth from across the country in a stadium, a huge youth convention, which is a little terrifying to imagine right now, but each day was bookended with large worship services in a convention center, loud bands blasting religion through the speakers. In all fairness, the messages were good about love and service and inclusion. But I remember one member of our group moved away from the sound as much as possible. Moved to the back row, sat with the chaperone, put in earplugs, and faced away from the stage, clearly making space from the intensity of noise and light and crowds. Over time, I would learn more about this person and more generally about sensory challenges of many people. And while I have never had major adverse effects to intense sound and sensory experiences, I remember feeling like that's a really great idea because this is really loud. This is more commonly understood in recent years, a growing awareness of challenges for many people in sensory processing, in both adults and children, and general sensitivity to stimulation overload, whether it's a disorder or not. This growing awareness is likely a combination of studies and research over years, as well as educators and therapists being more clear about giving language to that experience for students, as well as a culture that is more intensely frenetic all the time. The amount of screens, the intense uses of technology, it's part of my own restrained preference for how we use a screen in church. I'm a little bit of a millennial Luddite, just a little, goes a long way, I think. There is something in our culture, in our world, that leans toward entertainment over intentionality. Something to dazzle the senses, engage our whole attention. And too often, if you don't fit into that mainstream approach and you resist the noise, you may feel and start to sound like a Grinch a little bit in this season, or at least not quite fit in, not quite normal, whatever that is. It quickly becomes such a dominant part of the holidays, especially in American Christmas traditions, where it feels like we need to pack every ounce of glittery, sparkling light to keep the dark away, to fill any hollow void in our hearts with candy canes and Hallmark movies on loop 24 hours. And if I'm completely honest in saying this, because I like the lights and festivity, saying any of this can make me feel grinchy too. But we know it happens in larger ways. In mainstream social media, we know study after study shows the detrimental impact of perceived joy in others' lives, a glossy, curated collection of happiness that they post online. I appreciate more and more these days the honest reflections that I see posted publicly. Some of my colleagues are in a special small group called UU Pastor Parents, or UU Ministers who are parenting young children. And many of them regularly post keeping it real posts about how bedtime was a complete disaster, or how they tried to take a picture of their child next to the little sign that said, "I didn't hesitate to vaccinate," with their child's face clearly expressing something very different, that not only did they hesitate, but they cried and screamed and kicked. And it made us question as religious leaders, how did I raise an anti-vaxxer? Or about how their intentions at dinner time to have a reflectful, thoughtful prayer practice or meditation time or calm, glad sharing about highs and lows at dinner regularly turns into, let's just say, a crapshoot would be the pulpit appropriate language for that, with tears or anger or anything other than something meditative and spiritual and calm. Perhaps a lesson of the season, always, is about subverting, perhaps, or at least rejecting those mainstream pictures of perfection. The perfect holiday, the perfect life as somehow being normative. Life is a whole lot more complicated than that, we know. A whole lot more messy. Often it's a disaster. And humanity is a lot more diverse than that. As Rumi said, there are 1,000 ways to kneel and kiss the ground, and so too there are 1,000 ways for our humanness to be varied and different in mind, in body, and in spirit. Like the book today that Amy read, the sometimes raging, sometimes calm, the sometimes wildly splashing ways our speech, our thoughts, our hearts make their way through the terrain of this world every day, for some a constant reality, for others an occasional experience in the soul, of how we are supposed to be, expected to be, meant to be, as if one size, one language, one way of being and thinking should fit all. Sometimes for neurodivergent people or folks for whom thinking and their ways of being in the world are not considered typical, or people with disabilities, for people who don't fit whatever molds of how to look, who to love, what to believe, how to feel or act or speak, sometimes the soul needs a river to skate away on. Far from the bright and shiny lights, what we actually need often is some faint, constant flicker, just enough for the night. In the dark, the longest nights you can remember, writes the poet. Write it on your hands and arms, braid it into your hair, scrawl it with Sharpie on your pants. No matter what, they cannot take your spark. Maybe that's what this is all about. Each message of these many holidays and rituals and histories speaking to us, not exactly putting the Christ back in Christmas, though if you're talking about a Jesus who subverts empire and welcomes the refugee and the immigrant and sides with the marginalized and flips tables of economic injustice, which he likely, which is most often the case, learned from his mother, who said, "Cast down the mighty and send the rich away empty," then by all means, yes, put that Christ back in Christmas. I'm all about that. But maybe in a similar sentiment, how to keep something holy in a holiday, that there is something deeper than the surface, deeper than a season, a soul wrapped in glittery paper, something deeper than the surface level happiness and jollity you might feel expected to have or feel. Maybe that's what our monthly theme, joy, is actually about. Joy is something much deeper than happiness. Joy as inner gladness, contentment, a sense of peace and well-being. That joy, in some original meanings, refers not to a feeling at all, but to a source. Joy as some source of soul gladness. What is that source for you? What are those sources of joy? And to be fair, it is okay to love the lights and the glitz too, the sprinkles and the gathering and the looping music and carols. If you love that, fine, that's okay. But the point is, it's not the same for everyone, nor should it be, and we probably don't feel the same way all the time, and thank goodness for that. We have much to learn from each other, much to challenge in our assumptions of what ought to be for ourselves, for one another, for how people think, act, feel, talk, celebrate, love. Perhaps the deeper joy that comes from many things about all of these holidays, these holy days, reminds us of what matters most, that there is something holy or something sacred, something beautiful, life-giving, life-renewing in these stories that we tell, sometimes the same, sometimes new, of beauty in the deep dark of night, in the resilience of stars and candles, in the welcome and belonging we can find in community when those who are often cast out by the mainstream, those on the margins, find love and belonging, constant reminders that their feelings, their ways of being are not deficient but sacred, that each and every soul, varied and different, are beautiful, beloved, children of earth and stars, spirit and God, of the many names that we speak as sources of joy. In our need and seeking of quiet, of space away from dominant stories, of sometimes needing to put in some earplugs and move to that back row to see what we've scrawled in reminders to ourselves in Sharpie, to reject dominant norms that can serve as constraints on our humanity. There's something about these winter stories weaving their way through the dark that remind us that heaven on earth can be held by subdued, soft, gentle stories of love, like a blue cope of heaven, like the light of distant stars, as Diana Butler Bass reminds us. As she writes, Advent recognizes this profound spiritual truth that we need not fear the dark. Instead, wait there, she says, under that blue cope of heaven, alert for the signs of dawn. You cannot rush the night, but you can light some candles, you can sing some songs, recite poetry, and say prayers. And maybe that's the question for all of us. When you move back just a little bit, away from the expectations or the mainstream, which the term itself means pushing everything in the same direction, and those on the margins are left on the shore. Who's in that back row with you when you're able to skate away a bit, helping find solace from the noise of expectation, shelter from the shiny stories of perfection, calm from the intensity of entertainment that can blunt the senses? Who and what is in that row with you, ready to sit with you and find some space to be exactly who you are, the best, most real version of yourself? What sources of joy are shining to create that space where you feel covered in some calm cope that feels like heaven? May it be so. Amen. We'll sing Dark of Winter. I invite you to rise in body or spirit.
Your quiet calm surrounds
invite you to take a breath, and as you're comfortable, place a hand on your heart or toward the stars or the earth. And when you take a breath, imagine those spaces where you find calm and solace from whatever narrative you are needing to leave behind, to make space from, so that you may find sources of joy that are sustaining for the dark of night. Amen.
dress rehearsal went?